Pretty much that's what it is. Billy Boyd Sweat, I drank it all. I squeezed him dry. He is empty. Oh, no, that's, you can't, please, you can't, that's those exact words.
Right, so yes, has that been tweeted already? Yes.
There goes my career.
I'm going to pass the microphone here, and we'll pass it along the rounds as we.
We probably won't.
Oh, we probably won't. Just
yeah. Not a chance.
Excellent. Thanks, Sean. Well, welcome first and foremost.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us. Thanks for inviting us.
It's wonderful to have you here. Of course, it's a very special movie for New Zealand. A very hard, obviously, a movie that everybody wanted to be in across the board. And I would love to start out by asking, how did you all get in the movie? What was the process? What happened?
The others all paid. But no, quite simply, I was asked by my agent to go and audition for 2 roles, neither of which I got. And one was Radagast and one was for the voice of the dragon. But they wanted some pommy bloke. What's his name? Yes, that's right. Yeah. So they said, rather than doing a role that just comes and goes a bit, why don't you be in all 3 films all the way through? And I said, okay, fine, I'll do that.
I heard they were going to recast Galadriel, so that was what I was looking forward to start with. I was living in Sydney and I lied and I said I lived in Auckland. So they gave me an audition in Auckland. I flew over, did my audition, and then basically forgot about it for 3 months, and then I got a phone call. And I auditioned for Gloin. And I was obviously in the running until Hambo turned up. So I got Bomber, basically.
The best part.
Oh, the best part. I think, yeah. I got a phone call, 3 months later. So that was pretty cool.
Peter can't make films in New Zealand without me being in them. He doesn't know this, but my first contract with him had said you will be in all of Peter's films, and he signed it, so he has no choice. He didn't really want me to be in the film. He tried to make me the Orange Boy, but there wasn't one in the book. And they do try and write new characters, but obviously Orange Boy wouldn't fit. So I'd actually been working with Peter doing some mocap for the previs, and I think it may be from that, actually. I think Peter got me the job. I basically fixed it.
Yeah, he fixed it.
What's previs, Jed?
It's pre-visualisation. It's what they do. It's how Peter shoots it now. He does a whole lot of mocap to write
around the circle and we just imagine.
Yeah, because we have such big brains. You had to have a big brain to be in these movies, and mine is possibly the biggest in Tai Happy. And it's maybe over to you, Pete.
Thanks very much. What are we talking about?
Not a big brain.
Those
excuse me.
childhood incidents.
So I did an audition, and like you, Stephen, I just forgot about it. I mean, I thought, okay, that's awesome. It would be great to get a tiny part in The Hobbit, you know. And when my agent rang me up, I thought he was joking. I thought he was putting me on. So it was a huge, amazing kind of shock, and I'm still in shock. And look what I've had to put up with for 3 years.
All the tiny parts were already gone, so they had to cast who's going.
I can feel it and sense, and I'm sure everyone can hear, can sense it. There's a huge amount of camaraderie that we have here within this within the group.
We are actors. Told not to mention that word.
We did actually get on pretty well, I have to say. On the whole, I'd say that was true.
Yeah, camaraderie. That's that rice, fishy, smoked fish stuff you have for breakfast, isn't it?
Yeah. Australian version. I'm going to hand out to the crowd and we'll just get some questions going for you guys.
Yeah, just a quick question that I've been wondering. How hard was it to memorise all the names of dwarves if you needed to, and who was each role?
I still haven't got it figured out. Callen had to do that.
Yeah, Ian McKellen had to do it, and I think he found it quite hard. Oh, I found it relatively easy because most of the dwarves are very similar to the people who played them, so it didn't take that long, really.
Yeah, I didn't find it a problem at all because nobody ever asked me. I didn't have to worry about it, really. Yes.
What was the process of getting the prosthetics and makeup on? How long did it take for each of you, and how did you deal with it?
Each of us were different periods of time to get the job done. Certainly Peter and Stephen had more than I did. For me, from the time I arrived at the studio until I was ready to go was maybe 2 hours, 2 and a bit, just depending on who was doing it on any given day.
They didn't have to do anything to his face?
Yeah, mine was about, I think they got it down to an hour and 20 minutes, or hour and a quarter, because the last prosthetics guy I had, Matt, basically just punched it on every morning. I had 2 prosthetic artists working on me, so I was lucky, and that's why it was down to that time, which was about average, I think. And I probably took longer at breakfast.
Yeah, my prosthetic didn't take very long, but my hair took like 3 hours, and it used a lot of product. That's actually John's face. That's his real face.
They peeled it off me.
Can you put it on?
I could, yes. Have you got the appropriate glue? That's all I need.
Super glue, dude.
There it is. I stole that out of the bin. The hair is in the eyebrows is real human hair, but the hair that we had for our wigs and our beards was all made of yak hair. Wow. Shaved from the belly of a yak.
Wow. But Peter hasn't answered his question yet,
You
John.
want a kiss?
Completely oblivious.
No, nobody cares what Peter has to say, Jed.
I'm going to come back to that in a minute, John. Peter.
Here, pass it.
I took 2 hours, the full package, prosthetics, fat suit, beard, hair, costume, boots,
Massage.
acting coaching, that takes a couple of...
He had a lot of counselling as well.
Yes. Jim.
No, I'm done. I answered it already while he was showing us things.
Excellent. With a prosthetic like this, how many uses would be got out of one of those?
One.
Single use.
Yeah.
It has other uses. You can use it to scare small children.
Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween.
But he doesn't need one for that.
This is actually prosthetics here.
It's quite good if you like to open wounds, like just immediately too, and just wrap it in a little bandage.
Fabulous. Questions from the floor. Let's take some more away.
This is just I'm curious about a slight spoiler for the next film, but when the eagles are at the top, they've dropped you at the top of that bloody great big
Carrot.
yeah, had you built a flying fox
Yes.
using your Toyota Hilux to get you down the road? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, you may well ask, because the magic of cinema, we rattle down there pretty quickly, I imagine. Yeah, no. The Hilux wasn't around there. I think back in the Middle Earth, you remember, there was no Toyota Hilux. Probably, the 120Y was probably knocking around about then, but no Hilux.
I'm not sure that that's a spoiler for the second film.
It spoiled it for me. No flying fox.
Actually, the thing is, and this is a spoiler, we actually never get off the carrot. The whole of the second movie happens up on that one rock. They pretty much bring all the action to us. Because because he's a wizard, you see, so he just goes, I tell you what, shall we all stay up here? I'll bring all the action to you. Don't worry, you stay put.
How long did it actually take you to film your collective and individual parts? How much time was actually spent on set? Have you tallied it up per person?
Probably what, on camera, about 50, 60 minutes. Probably, it was
How many?
Yeah, year and a half. It's stretched over 18 months, basically. But,
That happens most of the time.
Yes, it does.
Always does in my life.
I was just translating.
It just seemed a lot longer.
Out of 18 months.
I'm going to cut to the quick. We shot roughly on average about 15 to 16 hours pretty much every day.
Yep.
So if you translate that over 18 months, that's what it took to get his close up. The rest of us just kind of waited in the wings for our 3 seconds to get on and do it.
Cool. So it was physically that long?
Yep.
Wow. That's a significant amount of
It was.
time.
We aged significantly. Yeah.
I did. I wasn't bald when I started either.
Yeah. That song you sang, like it sounded amazing. Were you all really singing, or did you have a vote?
Yeah.
So was that part of your audition?
We
weren't
No.
Some of us were meant to be humming, but as soon as you hear action, all the what you should do, when some people are singing, you go, I'm going to sing too.
I was humming. I was eating, I think.
So we did a lot of rehearsal.
Yeah.
About 6 weeks worth of rehearsal, and then they gave us some words. So it was mainly humming for 6 weeks, and then a few soprano lessons. Mark Hadlow gave us a lot of soprano lessons.
Humming is actually a very, very technical skill. I think I'm a better hummer now after that performance.
But yeah, we did. We actually were asked by some fans in Germany to sing it, and we got up and sang it.
No. We had a bit of coaching then. We don't want to do it.
We need Hadlow too.
We need Hadlow.
Yeah.
We tried an Armageddon in Wellington, didn't we?
Always karaoke.
Yeah.
Well, also it was some years ago when we actually recorded it. So, and we haven't actually been together terribly much since then, have we?
I pretty much practice it every day.
Something. Misty Mountains called something.
He's got nothing else in his life.
It's true. Can we hear it? You may be shocked and sad for me, but it's true.
So we've got you full gas here in this particular panel. How often are you doing conventions like this?
Over to you, Jed.
I've just come back from Sweden actually, that one over there, and it kind of depends on how far they are willing to fly you. It's a very expensive place to travel from New Zealand, and that's the restrictive thing being down at the centre of the world. It's if they can get a couple of A-grade American actors for $5 to fly them Delta, they'll do that rather than fly us from New Zealand. But it's really, from my experience of Lord of the Rings, it's really not until all 3 films are out that you really start to pick up doing this a lot. They want to make sure that you don't die halfway through the film, because your photo will be worth less if that happens.
Or more.
Yeah.
Or more, it's case may be.
Depending on whether they liked your character or hated your character. But yeah, I mean, I've been travelling for 12, 13 years doing these Lord of the Rings, and it is a great way of seeing Europe.
Because you played about 17 characters in Lord of the Rings.
I did, yeah. I wasn't meant to.
Just do that like that. Just turn up on set. Oh, I'm supposed to be
True
here.
that you played a drinking cup in the back of shop.
Yeah, and in The Hobbit too, true. He was a fence post in Hobbiton.
That's not easy.
And the scene where they race up and Bilbo hands over the contract, and Jed's on a horse, and he is actually a horse at the same time. He plays, last count was about 26 characters in The Hobbit.
I'm a chameleon.
He was a chameleon too.
Wow. Multi-talented actor. What's the nightlife like in Matamata?
It doesn't matter, mate, because we weren't there.
Well, I used to live close to Matamata, so we used to go to the Trust. That was pretty much it. But we didn't really hang out in Matamata, did we?
No, it was just for those small people.
In Hobbiton, in fact, they had to wait until we could all go there to open a pub. Before we got there was no need for one, but once we'd arrived, it's been doing booming business, hasn't it?
They've got great beer in Hobbiton. The Green Dragon, and good cider. We had a bit of that.
Does it have half pints?
Half pints.
In the pub in Hobbiton? Brings back memories.
I don't do half pints. I'm sure it does. John.
Yes.
Somebody told me they thought it was a piece of ham.
I thought that's what
to
it was.
go with the ham acting.
I didn't have any lunch. I thought, wait, he's got some ham.
you're going to make a sandwich halfway through.
He did a very one-dimensional performance.
Yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to have this, so don't go putting it on Facebook.
Yeah.
There's always one. Always one on the crowd. The experience of working on The Hobbit and the worldwide audience that it gives, how has it helped or hindered your careers?
Well, it took us an initial year and a half, and then we had to go back and do post-production sound work, and then we had to do 10 or 11 weeks, was it, of reshoots and extra bits and pieces. And how has it affected my life? In terms of work, not a jot. Yet.
Yes.
But I'm here, which is great.
Funny, I've
doing this kind of thing is fantastic.
Since I've done this, I've had like dozens and dozens of inquiries from people asking me if I'm going to do another job.
It seems to be the communal experience, so are we going to hear more of the same?
Actually, Stephen and I are going to do we're going to do a film in Australia next year together.
Here we are.
Yeah, so it has, it's a cult film.
Called Mary Doe.
It's called Mary Doe, yeah. It certainly has sparked some interest, not so much in New Zealand, but certainly overseas. There are people who definitely want me to endorse their product. And some of them are very dubious products, let's be frank.
Peter and I,
dubious character.
Yeah.
Peter and I have got a spin-off series coming out, Oin and Gloin on the Road, and it's a kind of dwarvish version of the Cheech and Chong film.
And I've got a TV series called The Ori Dori Nori Story. And it's pretty much about all these hair salons that I open up in Middle-earth between The Hobbit ending and Lord of the Rings starting. I am responsible for an awful lot of bad hairdos that you see in Lord of the Rings, including Gandalf's.
And there's the Bomber cooking show, TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's firing up as well. My same story. I've had very little to do since we filmed. I think this is all going to change now when you all see and thrill to the naked dwarf scene in the extended version of what's it called? An Unexpected Journey. There's an unexpected pleasure for you there. There's a nude dwarf scene.
Yeah.
So our porn careers are going to just take off.
You think so? No, the naked. I've just got a small part.
And just to put a hold on this, I will take questions from the floor as well.
But no one bought that for
Hang on.
What
So, since Peter mentioned the extended edition, I've actually seen it. It's playing on Air New Zealand right now.
Yeah, I've seen it too. It's really good.
So, without spoiling anything, I'll be sort of vague.
Spoil it.
There are a couple of scenes with Nori getting into his character that we get to see in the extended edition.
Yeah.
I was wondering if any of you guys have any other scenes that'll be in the other two movies exploring the characters that you've created.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't you know what scenes I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil for everyone else, but
Oh, in the extended edition, you mean?
or in the other two films. I've seen the
Oh, we
extended
obviously
edition.
can't
so I
talk
know
about
that.
No, we can't talk about the second film except to say there are a bunch of new characters that we've seen in the first film, and once you've been introduced to them, really they just disappear and it's over to us again.
Yeah, back to us.
We refer to them lovingly as the pointies.
The pointies.
Yeah, and they are lovely to look at, let's be frank.
Is the Bollywood dance number is it still in the second movie or not?
Yeah.
That was my idea.
It kind of goes, going to Rivendell.
Bro, you'll be dancing
They're all
somewhere.
kind of flicking their long trees.
No, I haven't seen. Have you seen any of the special features? Have you seen any? Has anyone seen any special features from the extended edition? There's like it's about 20 hours of extended features, isn't there? I think there's something with our auditions or something in there, right? No.
Oh shit!
You should
No.
get it.
That may be why we're not getting much work. Really? You got a part doing that? Oh, okay.
You're probably just paranoid that Peter hasn't finished with you.
He hasn't finished with us. He never finishes with us.
Yeah.
Not you, the other Peter.
Well, yeah, and he's, you may have seen, there was an article online about, he was quoted as saying he wants to do New Zealand stories. So I think we'll probably see in the next sort of year or few months he'll be giving us a call and, you know, asking us if we know any good New Zealand actors that he could hire for those movies.
Maybe we might have met some along the way.
Steve, are you back in Australia?
Yeah, I live in Sydney, yeah.
We just couldn't have him here any longer.
Well, it's the eastern suburbs of Sydney, so it's pretty much New Zealand / Ireland, really.
No bushfires.
No, but there was plenty of smoke. Yeah, it was pretty bad up there. But yeah, no, we were lucky. We were by the water.
Trying to keep it uplifting in here, mate.
No,
no, it's very good.
No, good, yeah.
No.
So the traditional thing from a New Zealand perspective is when you do a movie that has something a credence on the world stage, the tendency is then to up sticks and head off to LA or the like. Is that like a likelihood for any of you four?
I've been to LA. I went to LA in October, and I went. It was very productive actually. I stayed with Graham McTavish. Ate him out of house and home.
He has a slightly different version of the story.
Yeah, maybe. I met a few people, and I went to Disneyland basically for my birthday. That was this time last year. I went. Yeah.
But the guy playing Mickey Mouse already has a contract.
Yeah. So my qualifications weren't quite high enough for Magic Mountain, but I'll try again next year.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I have to say I'm pretty passionate about telling New Zealand stories, and I think that there's one of the things about having Peter bring Hollywood to New Zealand. It still is New Zealand, and it still has a New Zealand flavour to it. Not just the countryside, but also us as actors. He fought pretty hard to have New Zealanders in pretty key roles in this film, and I think it's behoven to us to. I feel anyway. This is just me. I like being a New Zealand actor working in New Zealand. If you're an LA actor working in LA, I'm sure they feel the same. They're very passionate about their own stories and working there. It's not to say if someone, Spielberg rang me up and said he had a part for me to play the dinosaur's left toenail that I wouldn't go and do it. But, I do love the fact that we have an industry here and we've worked really hard to kind of get it to where it is, and it would be silly having Peter having built that facility to bugger off now. That's how I feel anyway, personally.
Yeah. I've spent 40 years working in theatre, television, here in New Zealand, acting and directing and a bit of writing, and really, as Jed says, if I was offered a job, I'd go and do the job, but this is home, this is where I want to be, and really, these are the stories we want to tell, and why the hell not?
Yeah, here. I'm the same. If a nice offer came up, fantastic. I don't know if I'd be chasing it. No. Well, I was going to say I don't care. I don't care what I do as long as I never have to work with Jed again.
I am toxic.
But no, I'm to a large extent. I'm sure all of us are going back to the previous range of activity that we had. I mean, I'm directing a play in Wellington next year, and I'm really looking forward to working on that. No, there's no part for you, Jed. But Stephen and John are already cast.
He didn't want to pay you petrol from Pycroft, but he's flying me from Sydney. It's interesting, like doing New Zealand stuff, especially because I don't live. I was based in Auckland. I live in Sydney now, and I love Sydney, but it was pretty cool coming back and doing this, and the thought of doing another New Zealand production would be pretty cool. I did Field Punishment, which is I think on next year. It's like a TV movie.
It's very good.
Yeah, I've seen it.
You have seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Am I in it?
It's great, brilliant. You will love it. Field Punishment, very scary,
You are
but very, very good.
That's good.
You're the best singer.
So throughout that process of working on the Hobbit, who was the actor or character you most liked working with?
Oh, look, I have to say, for me, Ian McKellen is the best actor on the planet. I really loved working with Richard Armitage. Having said Ian McKellen's the best actor on the planet, I think Richard was a true king. He was our true leader, and he definitely led from the front, as did Martin Freeman. In fact, those three key actors who we work with every day, you can't really separate them and say one was better than the other. We were privileged on so many levels. It was like a masterclass every day watching those guys work in very different ways. They're perfectionists. They would never, want to give a half-assed performance. And when you're confronted with that and you see it every day, you actually want to do better work as well. And so, for me, I'd have to say it was a triad of people that I loved working with. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I totally agree with all that. Martin's performance, both Richard and Sir Ian are extraordinary, of course. But I still reckon that Martin's performance is Oscar worthy.
Yeah, totally.
Now, whether all the Hollywood politics and everything, whether that happens to any extent doesn't matter. To me, he's won an Oscar because his performance is just enchanting every step of the way.
I'm sure he'd be stoked to know he's won a Peter Hambleton Oscar.
I'm sure. That is.
But he is he is amazing. Like he will I kind of think a lot about my job in particular. I found it was quite technical. I'd be one of quite a few people, and we'd either be in the foreground or in the background. But we 13. Yeah, but sometimes it was Ian. There was a few others. And so for me, it was more like a technical. I used to try and do the same thing every time because there's like movement and Martin's the star. But he'd always give a different performance. He'd always give something just slightly different for Peter to use, and Ian was like that. I also like working with McTavish, Graham McTavish.
Oh, yeah.
Because does anybody remember Kenny Everett?
Yeah.
Yes.
You remember Angry of Mayfair?
Yeah.
That's Graham McTavish. And he was like, remember he was so easy to wind up. But like physically too, like especially when we did pickups, he was walking around with a sling on his arm after one of those days. But he was fun. He was very good to wind up. I think the whole bunch, it was good. It was like being at school basically, on set in the trailer park, wasn't it?
No.
The names that you've heard do stand out. There's no doubt about it. But for me, there is one name that stands above all the others, and that is Kate Blanchett. And the saddest experience that I had on the film was being told that the love affair between my character and hers had been cut. I'm still not really over it.
Got it.
But the day, I think it was one day we met her. She was working. Basically we all just came in for lunch. I don't think we were even on that week when she was working. Didn't happen that often. Just coming in for lunch. But and everybody was.
I can't.
Anyway, but everybody was mesmerised by Kate Blanchett. Like everybody was just turned to giggling schoolboys. Richard Armitage, Richard Armitage and Serena McCallum. Like everybody was just mesmerised.
Yeah. Was Barry Humphries on set for his bit, or was he somewhere else?
Yeah, he was great, wasn't he? He was a trooper. Like he was sitting down, basically reading out his lines. He wasn't even doing. He did his mocap stuff, didn't he? And then he came in and I think he wanted to be part of it.
It was pretty funny.
Jimmy Nesbitt and I had the privilege of working with him when he was doing some mocap and feeding him everybody else's lines. And he is possibly one of the funniest people I've come across. In fact, before the premiere in Wellington, we were all gathered together in a room about this size in the Museum Hotel. And there were the PR people and the Warner's Brothers people and all sorts. And we were told, okay, it's going to work like this. And as you go down the red carpet, there's press people here and here and here. And you'll be talking with these people and you'll be talking with them and you'll be on the telly, you'll be doing the radio, all this kind of thing. Does everybody know what they have to do? And we're all going, oh, there's a pause. And out of the pause, Barry Humphries says, can I presume that you want us all to be positive about the movie? Sorry.
And he looks a lot better than he does in the movie too in real life. Just in case you were worried.
But there was certainly the Kate Blanchett day was one of them. Days where I found, as a jobbing Kiwi actor, I was kind of having to pinch myself. Is this really happening to me? And one of the best examples for me was when I was sat down at lunch one day and Ian McKellen came and sat next to me, and I just called him Ian, I don't call him Sir Ian, we have that kind of relationship. And we were chatting about things, and then Billy Connolly comes and sits down the other side. And I said to him, hello Billy, what have you been up to? And he said, I've been trying on the fucking armour. I said, oh, the armour, gosh, it's heavy, isn't it? And he said, heavy? It's like wearing a fucking Volkswagen.
It was it.
What was it like, from an acting perspective, being the different height factor with the wizard and dwarves? How was that like playing in the room? Were you actually playing into eye line?
Yeah.
Doing it on the knee?
There was one scene I had to do on my knee, which is in...
It's an extended version. I see in New Zealand.
In the X-rated version.
We all had to do it on his knee. Wrong. So many levels.
That was the audition, John.
I've forgotten the question.
No, the very first scenes that we shot for this film were done in Bag End, and they had two sets, identical, but one scaled down a third from the other.
So not identical.
So that,
like 18 months.
Sorry, John, you carry on.
so they looked identical with the cameras in them. So what it meant was that Ian McKellen was in the small one so that he looked bigger in the environment, and the rest of us were in the other one. And so we were separated, and I think Ian found that difficult. So in terms of the size, that did occasionally happen, where we had earpieces and what Ian was saying in the other room. In fact, at one point there was an assistant, an AD, who was helping him by saying, oh, look, we've got these stickers here so that you know which of the actors is in what position around the table, because of course he couldn't see us. So the red one here is for Peter, and this one, green one, is for Stephen, and so on, all the way around. And then we all heard him say, that's very kind of you to help me, but you do realise I'm colourblind.
Yeah, that was trying for Ian.
We also had a scale double who was exactly a foot shorter than us.
Was it really? Was that the foot?
Yeah, they were exactly a foot shorter than us, like a foot shorter than us. And we also had a guy called Tall Paul who's nearly 7 foot. So when they were shooting Ian from behind with us in shot, they would often have him dressed up as Gandalf to show the different size. And then very occasionally our scale doubles actually didn't end up having to do a lot of work because they just didn't in the end. But there were scenes where they actually had them in there when Ian was from the front so that you could see the difference. Yeah. And quite often Ian was on a big rostrum as well.
Magic of theatre, magic of film.
Yep.
So you were talking before, certainly Peter Jackson's done wonders for us down here in this part of the world, and has been a great proponent for making sure that we've got the ability to use New Zealand talent in these international productions. Currently, the current state of the New Zealand film industry being high Kiwi dollar, internationally financial difficulties right across the world. What's your thoughts regarding the positivity currently of the New Zealand film scene?
Yeah, look, every country wants multi-million-dollar films to come to them, so there's a lot of competition out there, and if it comes down to does the government decide to do the tax incentives, I think they should. It does generate a lot of money in terms of for the retail part of New Zealand, and it brings a lot of tourism into the country. But the dollar is the thing that really kills it. Once it gets up over 70 cents, it's really not saving any money coming here. Even though the environment is amazing to look at and we have the facilities, it really comes down to who can offer the best bang for the buck. And it comes down to a competition thing. Countries compete to actually make it cheaper, and there are more incentives. And, you know, we are a small country. There's only 4 million people, and a lot of our films are funded by our taxes, although we don't pay them. No, I do. So it's funded by the taxpayer dollar, and that makes it very difficult when you've only got 4 million people to fund that. And so it comes down to really what kind of things we can offer to get them over here, because they won't come otherwise. It doesn't matter how beautiful the scenery is. They won't travel all the way from LA to come and shoot here unless there's some reason to do so. So it's a difficult position. I don't really know what the answer is. I hope that it'd be good for exports as well if the dollar comes down slightly. But there's nothing much that we can personally do about that.
You would hope that, I mean, I don't know a lot about the numbers really, except in crude terms. I was reading, like many of you probably have, that we, as a government here, obviously, it's about 15% tax incentive. But Ireland, for example, is now offering 25%. That they get a tax write-off for that percentage of how much is spent on the production. So there's a numbers game, there is the exchange rate, but we know for a fact that we've got the scenery here, we've got the crews that are really highly rated, there's Weta Digital, there's that whole creative kind of village that's been created there. We've got so many things going for us in terms of making films. And when you look at what Peter Jackson has achieved, we'd be mad not to back that and to continue to back it. I like to think that wisdom will prevail and that we will start offering competitive tax incentives, because otherwise, aren't we just blowing and wasting an incredible opportunity that everybody has contributed over time?
It's taken 20 years to get to where it is, and it wasn't easy. It was on the back of some people who, Peter could have gone to LA, he could have taken all his genius, people surrounded him and gone there, but he decided that he was passionate about bringing it here, and I think you're right, I think wisdom will prevail.
Just recently, a New Zealand television film production concluded its work, and at that time, which was just 2 weeks ago, that meant that there was only one television program being made in terms of drama, and no footage being shot on any film at the moment. Some are in preparation. And that one thing that survived was Shortland Street.
Which, let's face it, is amazing.
Oh, it's well. Look, if you're talking numbers, at the beginning of this year, Shortland Street was off air, came back on, and that night that it came back on, there were more people in New Zealand watching Shortland Street than every cinema combined with every other television channel in the country.
And you direct some of it, don't you, John?
Yes, I have done. Yes. So that, I think, was really sad. But in the past week, I've been working at a brand new mocap studio that AUT here in Auckland has invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in. They are not going to do that if they can't see a future. And while things may be tricky right now, I think the kind of things that Jed has been talking about will bear fruit in the future. I can't see Peter Jackson ignoring this industry. It just won't happen.
No. And Peter's actually said just in the last couple of days actually that he wants to go back to making, smaller budget New Zealand films with Kiwi actors, as Stephen was mentioning. I think he has a lot of faith in the industry doing okay. And this idea that James Cameron won't shoot Avatar here when he's bought 2 farms over in the Wairarapa and become a Kiwi resident, that makes no sense to anybody. I think that there's a lot of scaremongering.
Yeah, there probably is. I mean, I think there's a big high-stakes game being played in terms of deals being made and everything. But we probably need to be really careful that we don't lose a lot of our best crew overseas in the interim until we get it sorted out.
Well, that is a real issue at the moment because we've got highly professional crews, world rated, and there's no work for them. And when there's no work, you've got to find a
this
living.
13 episode television market, like
Yes.
very true. I mean, look at Game of Thrones. The whole thing could have been filmed in New Zealand.
Yeah.
No problem whatsoever.
It's been shot over in Ireland. And
Oh no, it's been
amazing
shot in
things.
5 different countries.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do that here. We could call it, Game of something else. Game of two halves, maybe.
There must be this 13 episode Netflix type work that.
Game of Bros.
Yeah.
I think if you check with NZ On Air, for instance, you might find that idea has possibly already occurred.
Ooh.
Because I
Is that a
mean,
watch
Mr.
this
Johnson's
space?
going to be renewed.
I hope so, because I think
Yes.
Gorman is the best thing in it, personally.
Well, it's a great show.
Yeah, great for him. No, I think it is.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
really good. I think it's it's got better as it's gone along, and I do. One of the things that bugs me most about this country is just when things are starting to get on their feet and actually are progressing, for some reason they pull it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it comes down to the audience. I think we love it. It doesn't come down to the actors or the production crews. A lot of it comes down to just. I don't really know actually. I don't know what the answer is. I'm just talking through
another one. Nothing trivial. That's a good show. But nothing
Yeah,
trivial.
well, that's the one that just finished.
Yeah, has that been renewed?
No, nothing trivial. No, I don't know about that. Don't know about that.
Great.
Can't tell you.
Good question though.
Yeah.
A lot of mileage.
Right, could you tell us a joke now, please? We've got far too serious.
Yes.
Yes, my dear.
She's got a joke.
Whoa, we jumped right there.
Whose idea was the dwarf workout video in the live?
Oh, they might have been Brophy's.
Yeah, it was actually the behind-the-scenes people came to me and said, we've got this idea of showing a bit of the dwarf camp, but we want to make it funny. And I said, I used to teach aerobics, which I did in Lycra, and I had leg warmers as well. And so I sort of ran through some things that we could do, and then we got these guys in, and it became a kind of a collective thing, really. But it kind of came out of the idea that Pan, the behind-the-scenes, the EPK person, wanted to do something, showing something that wasn't actually what we did in terms of the boot camp, but showing something a bit funny. And I think it was just genius to get Adam Brown in there with a head thing, whatever that's called. Kind of made it really.
I nearly died of laughter. It's hilarious.
Yeah, we nearly died doing it. Actually.
I need to say, almost pulled a hammy, just sitting up.
I was sick that day. I was actually.
He was actually.
And
You were
I'm
sick.
really gutted that I missed out on being in that sequence.
It's much better.
It is.
I wasn't invited.
Oh, attention. On that note, do you keep in contact with I know you're here, everybody's here,
Yeah.
but do you keep in contact? I mean, right across the cast?
Yeah, a lot of us are. Some of us are on Twitter, some of us aren't. If we go to another country, we tend to say, "Can I come and crash in your house?" If your family would like to leave for some length of time, and we do try and stay in touch. I think, like with Lord of the Rings, it's unusual to have such a close bond with cast members doing a film, and I think we'll be friends for life. Otherwise, we would have nowhere to stay when we go overseas.
It's kind of weird. Like I tried to work out because it's been a bit flat, post Hobbit blues really since I've finished, and it's like if you normally have a job and it's your dream job, and people say when you do your dream job you don't feel like you're working, and then you have your workmates at work that you become good friends with, and it's a great thing. That's where your social base is. Because we did it for almost 2 years. Stay with me. Because we had it for 2 years, we built up that, it was a great job, we met some fantastic friends that we got really close, and then suddenly, it got taken away. And it's been quite difficult in some ways, because you've made all these great friends and you just don't get to hang with them anymore.
Steve, come on.
You've been having your hand up for a while there.
Do you need to go to the?
Not quite.
It's that way.
I wondered two things. Well, first of all, you've been to, I'm assuming after Wellington World Premiere that seeing that Hobbit is a sort of a worldwide phenomenon, that you've been to a lot of other countries to promote the movie. What would you say would have been perhaps our most unexpected type of premiere? Of which country would that have been?
Unexpected.
So maybe not in size, but maybe what completely different to what you thought would be.
Oh, for me, it was the world premiere in New Zealand. I was nervous to start with, getting on the red carpet, and then it was just such a cool day. It was very relaxed, and it was like a 600-metre red carpet, wasn't it? I mean, it was quite extraordinary. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as the premiere went, nothing would beat Wellington. Simple as that. Los Angeles, fantastic. London, brilliant. New York was even better than Los Angeles because they didn't have one there.
John went to Los Angeles.
We were all jet lagged. We were all jet
lagged. Meeting Prince William was quite fun.
Yep. My cousin.
Yeah. He particularly liked my shoes, I remember. Yes, he had rubbish shoes on. But, look, one of the strangest things was seeing in New York a building on which was painted the images of all our characters, and it would have been 12, 13 stories high. That was extraordinary, just extraordinary. And meeting Carmen Electra in a television.
Yes.
Over to you.
I didn't enjoy that at all.
I think the strangest thing.
Bizarre.
The strangest thing, and I've got video of this, and I've edited it. I'm gonna post it on. It was when we arrived in Heathrow, and we're on the same flight from New York to London as One Direction. No Direction. And so once we got out of the baggage area, it's like, okay, I think we need to get out really quickly because once they come out, it's going to be carnage. And we walked out, and there's thousands of these fans, all these young girls, and it was quite obvious that none of them were for us. And then when we got to our vans, our cars, and we all had the same cars. We had the same cars as the One Direction guys. So we had their bouncers trying to stop us from getting into our vehicles. And
taking
then
our luggage out of
and then it got into a big panic, and we had a direction in our car. One of the directions was thrown in our car with his bags and his toy bloody lion. We nearly kidnapped the One Direction. That was a big story from London. We almost had him. I feel sorry. He was the darker boy. I don't know. He was with the dark hair. Yeah, I felt really sorry for him.
I have a 10-year-old cousin who is going to marry them.
Awesome. Well, I could have sold you one. I was that close from getting one. So
we had 11 of these 13, 14, 15-year-old girls in one of the vans, and they came piling in. They took one look and they said, "Who are you in the band?"
We actually got Dino Gorman to put his hood up, and they chased our van thinking he was one of the ones. And we were like, "No, we're his manager. You got to get away from the van." Like, "Oh, we love you." You didn't know who he
Dino
is.
Gorman could pass as one of the directions.
Yeah. I can't top that story. But except...
Well, you were there. We were in Ginger 1, remember?
Ginger 1, and we nearly got there.
We had his toy lion. It was weird. But I want to just say, that whole thing about when you're a huge fan of somebody and you worship them, and,
It's okay, mate.
It's all right.
No,
anytime.
The whole experience has been full of really amazing stuff like that, and one of my cherished memories is when we got to London. I mean, New York premiere, London premiere, getting to meet royalty, all that, fantastic. But we had the most magical night the night before the London premiere, where we got to go to Ian's pub. Sir Ian co-owns a beautiful old pub that's about 600 years old. The building is in Limehouse, just up the river in London, and so we got to go there as a group and have drinks, and then we got to go to his place up the road for supper, and there I got to meet Sir Ian Holm, who is one of my heroes, acting heroes. So I mean the whole thing is littered with
really enchanting experiences like that. So we feel very lucky and very privileged.
And we got chased in London down the street.
Yeah, we got Pat big time.
We were all staying at Claridge's, which is a very expensive hotel, and they had people waiting outside to chase us down the street. Mr. Callen, I'm your biggest fan. I've loved you ever since you were in this movie.
They're all scalpers. They're all scalping autographs.
Yeah. Yes, down the back there.
Oh no, I can do it that way. Talk more about just those random stories, because honestly, like that's the most funniest part. So like any trip that you go on, it's like what serious stuff can happen right now, or what crazy things can happen. Whenever I go overseas to LA, it's just like you can sit in the Grove and you could just see like 50 celebrities walk by, and then you see like this massive posse of paparazzis go like so fast, and you just sit there and have a coffee, go, who was that?
None of those cool things happen to us.
And I would love to carry it on, but we're actually bang on time now unfortunately to wrap up tonight.
Well, finish with one more story.
But I've just been given a nod. Actually, we've got to wrap it up at this point here. But I'd say thank you so much for joining us here.
Ask us later.
On Saturday.
A big hand. You did a great job.
Jed Brophy, Stephen Hunter, John Callen, thank you so much for coming and joining us here.